Hey folks, it's Bob out here at Sorrento Hill. I'm taking advantage of the sunlight and the cooler temperatures this morning. I'm working on my spring pole lathe again, and what I'm doing today is I'm putting the uprights on. I've already got the poppets done. Last video I got them done, and they go in nicely, fit down snug. I took those out so that you can see what I'm doing here. And what I'm doing is I've got this wood. This started out as the piece that I cut out from the center. And what I've done is I've cut it in half. Um, this is 2 inches thick by about 2.5 inches wide. I planed it smooth. It was wasn't real straight. So I planed it to smooth it and brought it down to a thickness where I could cut it in half on my table saw. And so these are the uprights that will hold the bungee that provides the spring portion of it. And those are just going to sit down in holes that I'm cutting here. And the way I'm cutting those holes is I got my drill with a 1/2 inch bit. I think it's 1/2 inch, 3/8 1/2 inch. Anyways, and I just marked how deep I want to go. I've got some of those fancy collars that tighten down with a set screw, but I don't know. I just haven't had as much luck with those. I like to go old school, just with a piece of tape around it. But I drill a series of holes at the depth that I want, and then once I've got those holes, I take my chisel and I bust out what's in between the holes. These, I used to always buy those inexpensive chisels from like Harbor Freight and Walmart and things like that, and I hated using chisels because they were such a pain. They were never very sharp. They wouldn't hold an edge, and I splurged. I went online on eBay and I found a set of Robert Sorby woodworking chisels. There's a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4, and a 1 inch. I'm using the 1 inch right here chisel, and they're made of a higher quality steel. They got nice handles on them, metal rings around the top, and boy, they hold an edge nice. All I do prior to using it, each day prior to using them, while I take my old diamond sharpening stone, and I just hold it sideways so I can eyeball it and see that I got it right. I've got a guide somewhere in a box of tools that's stored away in my future workshop with all our household goods. But I just kind of eyeball it here to see that I've got it the right angle. It's been working out pretty well for me, and give it just half a dozen strokes. Just give it half a dozen strokes on that. And then I've got a small piece of leather here I use to strop it, to take any burr off. And it leaves me a nice sharp edge. And then I'm able to just open it up, And I'm not even using a hammer right now, but just taking the little shavings off, almost like if I was using a plane. So I've really enjoyed having a nice set of chisels, and so I use them quite often. A lot of places where you might have, where you need to plane a little bit, but you can't get a plane to fit in there, where you can get a chisel in and take out little shavings and just do some fine tuning on your dimension, and it works out great. And this is on oak. Imagine what these would do on pine. And this is not green oak either. This is dried and seasoned oak. This is from a tree that was standing dead for about 2 years before I cut it down. And then they've sat out doing some more drying for another about a year. So it's pretty dry and pretty tough. You definitely can't screw into it without drilling the pilot hole, that's for sure. I need to take a little more off here. And what I'm doing here is just smoothing the edge off, because you know I drilled a set of holes, so there's a little it's not real smooth, and so I'm just smoothing that off to get my upright to fit. And then I'll resort to modern technology and use my blow-off gun. Notice I put my safety glasses on before I use this. And gets my shavings out of there. And then we'll see how this wants to fit. Oh, there we go. I'm going to have to mark it which side goes where. Okay, so I can see where I need to open it up a little bit more and smooth it down. It goes in probably a half inch or a little bit more. So again, I just eyeball where I need to take my hole, expand my hole a little bit and smooth it down so that this will fit in. And then once I've got this hole done, well, I'll go to the other side and do the other hole for this upright, and then I'll be able to mount my bungee. And I'll also have to build a treadle to use to pull my rope down, the rope that wraps around the workpiece, and that pulls the bungee. And that's where you get the action from, is from foot power, working a foot treadle. And then in the industrial age, they figured out how to put an electric motor on it to motorize these things. And boy, that sure changed. That sure changed a lot. All right. I'm going to go ahead and mark this with an O for the outside. And I'll mark it down where it's normally going to be in the hole. I like to mark things, so outside right, so because when I go to a craft fair or a show or something like that, I'll have to take it apart to transport it, and that way I'll know what part goes where. And just make my hole just a little wider and smooth it off flat. Another thing I'm also going to have to do is I'm also going to have to put some diagonal braces on my legs. It's got real good stability. It doesn't move like laterally. It doesn't move front to back, but it does wobble side to side. So I got to put some diagonal braces on the legs to make it more secure. And again, so I'm making it so that I can take it down either for storage or for transport. Because the eventual goal with this would be to go to places like a craft fair or a farmer's market, or go to like a heritage festival or heritage days and actually do some wood turning there. And show people how their ancestors would have made chair spindles and chair legs and things like that. Anything that they wanted round instead of rectangular. Sometimes I think using the hammer gives you a little bit more control. And sometimes I just guide it with my hand. Now there is the potential that even though this wood seems pretty dry, there's potential I may get some more shrinkage, and depending upon the humidity. One of the problems with oak is that it being a hardwood, it is susceptible to shrinking and swelling with changes in humidity. And so I may have to sometimes, if it's really dry, if it's gotten really dry, I may actually have to put a little shim in here to hold this right, good and tight. Let me blow this out again. I don't know how well that shows up, but you can see some of the thin shavings I'm able to get with that chisel by having it good and sharp. Okay, now we will see. Okay, that far down. And again, it's just going to be a matter of getting the hole nice and smoothed out to get me a good firm fit. I don't want it to be loose, and I can see where I need to take it down a little bit more. Oh, right here, this corner's not opened up enough to be able to get it to go in. That's the hardest part, getting the corners good and square. And I had a little burr down there about where it was stopping. Yep, here's this one too. Oh yeah. And there you go. It was very satisfying. It just chunk down to the bottom. So that's the first one. Now I got I'll draw me a line, to make sure I've got it lined up straight, so that I've got the other one centered in the hole and lined up with this one, because I want it to look kind of nice. And then I'll sand these down a little bit, not a whole lot, but I will sand these down some to make them look a little more presentable. And sometimes it's nice to have a nice straight milled. This is some select grade 1x4, and it's nice and straight. And believe it or not, it is. The thing that's funny about this, I'm having to line it up with the slot here. The thing that's funny about this, I bought this at Menards, but it's got a sticker on it. It's select pine. This particular one's made in New Zealand, and I bought some that was made in my pencil. I bought some that's from Norway or Finland. So just because you go to an American store doesn't mean that it's American made. Here we go. Now, I won't get paid anything for saying this, and I'll probably ignite a debate. One thing I've noticed, I'm on a woodworking forum, and man, I tell you, you think the guys, in farm country, you got some guys, they bleed John Deere green, and other guys bleed case orange or case red or whatever, blue or orange. I mean, they are wed to their tractors and what color. And it's the same way with woodworking stuff. You got some guys will call them by, the Milwaukee guys were red, and then you've got the orange, which is the rigid, and the yellow, which is DeWalt, and the teal, which is Makita, and then you've got the lime green, which is a Ryobi. And it seems like people are just really, whatever platform they they just absolutely love it. And I use this Milwaukee fuel with the 18-volt batteries. I've got the drill, the driver. Let's see, a 7.5-inch circular saw and a sawzall and something else. That's all Milwaukee uses the same batteries, and they're just beasts. I had a Black & Decker drill and driver, and it seemed like the drill just didn't have much oomph to it. And I got this thing here, and man, this thing it just powers and chews through everything. You just saw, I got a 1/2-inch bit on here, and what it was doing by doing 2.5-inch holes in this oak. And this is some hard, dried, and seasoned oak, but it just powers right through. I love my Milwaukee drill and my Milwaukee tape measure. Like I said, I don't get any money for saying that, but I'm saying it anyway. All right, well, let me get this other hole chiseled out, and then I'll have my uprights on it. So here we are a few days later. As you see, I'm getting close on finishing up this wall. This is the one beside the side door. Got it up that far so far. And you'll notice also there's quite a few bottles in here, but not over there. That's because over in that area where there aren't the bottles, that's the outlet for the refrigerator, single outlet. There's going to be a fridge back there, so there's no need for bottles. This area right here is going to be an area right next to this doorway. I'll have a base cabinet and then an upper cabinet for storage. In the base cabinet, it's going to be right next to the door, so when I come in from the store with all my bags, I can just set them right down on the counter, which will be kind of a nice thing. And right now, I'm kind of at a stopping point on doing cordwood for the moment because we don't have water right now. They put in a new water line on our road because the line supplying us wasn't big enough, and now they're hooking everybody up to the new line, and as they hook people up, they're having to turn the water off while they finalize their connection. And so 2 or 3 times a day the water will go out, and right now is one of those times where the water is out. So what I thought I'd do is show you where I am on my spring pole lathe, get that finished up. All right, the spring pole lathe is completed. Last video, I got the legs installed, I got the uprights installed. Now I've got a bungee across here, and all I did to mount it has hooks. I just drilled holes that the hooks fasten into, nice and simple. Got some cotton rope tied to it, and then a couple scraps of plywood. This is actually one piece, and what I did is I just ripped a piece off of it, got a nice heavy duty hinge, and the rope runs up through the middle around the piece that I'm practicing on. And as I push on the treadle, around and around she goes. And then I've got a couple oak pieces. And again, this is just scrap, or so-called scrap. There's not really much scrap. Beautiful grain in that, isn't it? I'm fascinated by the grain in some of this wood. And then just a piece of, let's see, this is a piece I cut off of a 2x12, I think, something like that. But at any rate, it's that's all there is to it. So, I said I've got the treadle here. I think I may need to relocate my wire a little bit. Like I said, all of this, or my cable, all of this is just, you know, familiarizing myself with how things need to work, where I need to position everything, and also how to use my tools. I've got a set of chisels. And you know, I've never done this before, so I'm having to learn. And again, I've just got a piece here that's it's a square piece that I cut on the table saw, and I knocked the corners off to make it an octagon, and now I'm working on smoothing it out. And it's just a matter of finding where's the best place to put my tool. And again, as I push down on the treadle, that's not supposed to happen. We'll include the bloopers in there too, folks. Oh, mercy. Unfortunately, it looks like it's spread a little bit, and that's why you have to, from time to time, use your hammer to get it relocated. And this is one of the things about the natural stuff, you know, is it will shrink and expand, and that's why I've got the wedges. There's actual square holes in the bottoms of these poppets, and I've got some wedge-shaped pieces that go in there to lock them in place. And that other one, it moved probably 3/4 of an inch when I pounded it. That's why it came loose. So that's better. And over time, of course, those points are pretty sharp, so they'll dig a deeper hole. And now let's try it again. And again, it's just figuring out the correct tool angle. You know, what's my best tool angle, and the best place to hold the tools. How much pressure do I put? Because I've never done this before. And so you're getting to see me learning this thing as I go along. And again, this was just an octagon. And what I'm doing is just using this as a practice piece to learn the best angles, the best way to hold it. And you can see if I put it in too deep, it'll stall it. You know, what's the best tool for the job? But I'm actually getting this rounded off. And this will be one of the spindles that I use. I need to make me a bigger one, probably out of oak. A little bit bigger around, and that way it'll turn more. But this is just a piece I'm practicing on. It's pine. It's actually going pretty decent. And it's getting the rhythm down, because you have to move a tool out of the way on the upstroke and just use the downstroke to take material off. Okay, that's a good angle right there. I'm taking off good material. So that's how it works. You just use your foot to get the thing to move. I think I've got a little bit shorter bungee that I may use. That way it'll provide a little more power. Again, that's kind of experimenting with it and figuring out, and then getting the right angle, the right height for the tool rest, the right angle, and which tool's right for the job. But you know, there's just something very satisfying about seeing what used to be square being turned around. So this is a good example of how our forefathers, how they would have done it before they had electric motors. And of course, as soon as they had electric motors and other sources to make it turn instead of foot power, they didn't waste any time doing that. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that a little bit. This is my, like I said, just build me a little spring pole lathe. This is something that I can use to keep myself occupied in the winter time when there's when it's too cold to do cordwood and don't want to be out doing other things. And so in the next videos I'll be back to doing cordwood, and I'm looking forward to getting these walls done to the point where I can close things in here and start working on the inside and getting this inside more habitable. This thing that you've seen in the background here, you'll see me putting shelves in it, getting the stuff cleared out of the way and putting shelves in it. Behind my door is a whole 4x8 shelving unit, so I got lots of storage space in here. That's where our big screen TV will go. Yes, I do have one of those. And all my audio components, because I love my music. And so, yeah. Lots going on, and hopefully by now I got water so I can get back to cordwood, so I can get this thing closed in so it's a house. All right, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this little project of putting together this lathe, and maybe that inspires you to try something like that yourself. Again, I've never done it before, so I'm having to learn as I go. You saw my blooper there with the thing coming apart. I didn't think about the fact that I need to, you know, I hadn't used it for several days, so I need to make sure my piece is locked in good. At least it wasn't spinning, you know, 10,000 RPM when it happened. So, at any rate, it's a lot of fun, and I'm pretty excited about it, and looking forward to having some fun with it this winter. All right, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate you guys taking a look at our videos, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.